Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Ralph Eisler.
And I'm Faithless Forrest, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people committed to a life rooted in science and free of supernatural beliefs.
Yeah, and on today's show, we're going to tackle what is called the Euthyphro dilemma.
But first, we want to tell you a little bit about the sponsors of our show.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville frequently has a fun meetup at a bar or eatery. Tonight's meetup is at Barley's in the Old City, starting around 5:30. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. And as Matt Dillahunty at Atheist Experience says, everyone's welcome to our happy hour for food, drink, and conversation. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee have several regular monthly meetings. The first and third Sunday mornings of the month are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussions. The second Sunday we hold the Skeptics Book Club. On the fourth Sunday we're mixing it up, sometimes with a get-together we call a Reflections meeting. It features a potluck lunch in someone's home. Sometimes we meet and play board games or similar activities.
Okay, later in the show, we'll give you our websites to visit for additional details, including times and locations.
All right.
And right now, we're going to look at some items in the news.
In the news, Ralph, what's in the news?
What's in the news? There's a sign in the heavens of change. RET, the Rationalists of East Tennessee, finally got up a billboard in Knoxville promoting fellowship for non-believers.
Here in Knoxville, America's most biblical city of 2013?
Yeah, so we got news coverage on WATE and WVLT. Knoxville News Sentinel coverage included our own Larry Rhodes and a pastor of the church across the street, the Central Baptist Church of Bearden. We very much admire what the pastor said. Faithless will read you this for our viewers.
Sure enough. From the News Sentinel, we have Dr. Wade Bibb, the senior pastor at Central Baptist Bearden, isn't bothered by the sign. We're very strong supporters of freedom of speech, said Pastor Bibb. He understands that not everyone in his congregation will agree, so he has a message for them. If you wanted that to be a pro-God message there, then I think you should have rented it out and put a pro-God message on there, said Bibb. So, to our viewers, is this making a lot of excitement?
Well, yeah, our Facebook page has had a lot of traffic and support, and we have a spike in our email volume at info@rationalist.org. The ASK group, the Atheist Society of Knoxville, has had a lot of traffic on their Facebook page too, and other groups around the nation reported on our success.
So, with the Freedom from Religion newspaper advertisements, from the Freedom from Religion Foundation's newspaper advertisements, the Richard Dawkins Foundation bus sign campaign, the Coalition of Reason billboard campaign, and the American Atheist billboard campaigns, you'd think this would be routine by now, not very newsworthy even. Perhaps why should we even bother?
Yeah. Well, within the few days, Rationalists of East Tennessee were contacted by Lamar, the sign company. They say the owner of the property on which the sign was erected and where they rent their billboard space wanted our sign down immediately. It seems the sign owners have veto power even after the sign went up. No reason was given. Perhaps someone's faith felt threatened. Obviously, if you see what the sign says, what did the sign say? It said, if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. And that's all it said. It didn't bash anybody, but some people just can't stand the thought, it seems.
So after only 5 days into our 30-day contract, our advertisement was suppressed. Is it gone forever?
No, I don't think so. I'm not absolutely sure, but I think as we've discussed, it's like the Jewish carpenter zombie. It has stuck down the street and is again up.
It has
or it will be, I'm not sure.
It has risen again.
Yeah.
We should ask viewers to call in and share with us that location.
Okay.
All right. Well, Ralph, let's look into the letter bag and share with the viewers some of this email.
Yeah, we received a lot of email, info@rationalists.com, and some of them were very interesting. So the
Sam, can we get the slide up with the email address, letters to RET?
yeah. Anyhow, one of the letters was, before joining, what are your views on the devil? That was from a reader who obviously didn't want to go to our website to find out. But
It seems kind of amazing that someone could post that, and it said before joining. Were they serious or not?
I know.
And well, we've had callers here.
There are a lot of people who seem to think that if you don't believe in God, you believe in the devil. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's not true. So far as we're concerned, God and the devil are in the same category.
Well, they're part of a set. That set would be Yahweh/Jehovah and the devil, and then there's cherubim, however that word's pronounced.
Cherubims and seraphims.
And then flaming swords that point around. They're kind of magical, even if they're not a being.
This isn't from Harry Potter?
No. It guards the tree of life, the flaming sword that turns every which way. Maybe it's not flaming. Callers or viewers, call in and correct me on my biblical errancy there. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so...
Well, I'll grab one. Just wanted to let you know I was absolutely thrilled to see the billboard. Thank you.
Okay. And here's another one. The writer says, hello, my name is so-and-so. I am a Christian, but I'm interested in joining your group because I believe I have the ability to give input to your conversations at group meetings. I'm educated in the field of science, currently getting a doctorate in physical therapy, and I believe I would have a lot to bring to the table as a Christian and someone who loves and understands science. These lines from your mission statement had me interested. To foster an environment suitable for free speech and exchange of ideas, to promote free inquiry into the nature of the universe and human societies. How do I go about joining? Well, that's a nice letter, wasn't it?
It is. And unlike the other letter, it was obvious that this person read on our website.
Yeah.
It is kind of frustrating when we get the question, do you believe in the devil, or what are your views on the devil? When, and maybe it is that some people just simply don't understand what I would call a natural worldview. That there's no one playing
I don't
tricks
think so.
with the rules of nature.
We have some other letters that are maybe like that too. Yeah. I would say though, to you people out there who may be Christians or may be agnostic or somewhere in between, you don't know, we would welcome you to come to our meetings. You can go to our website at rationalist.org and look up the contents of future meetings if you want. We don't want to get into long, heated discussions about the existence of God or something like that, but if you can bring a reasonable dialogue to the table, we're happy to have you.
And usually we already have kind of a program for the meeting. So it's not like we're going to sit around, or we're not going to preempt our regularly scheduled meeting content to have a discussion over the beliefs or the merits of certain beliefs.
No.
It did have me wondering if this person thought that we had no one in the group that had ever been Christian when this person talks about, I would have a lot to bring to the table as a Christian.
Well, we have had a few theists in the past. They haven't always stayed around too long. I think they don't feel necessarily happy. We do have one person on our board who at least has in the past been pretty involved, I think, with the church, maybe Catholic Church, and she knows what the views of most people are, and but she brings a lot to our board, and happy to have her.
All righty. So, should we grab another one here?
Yeah, do that one there. Boy.
All right, well, this one's kind of short. Don't want nothing to do with your bunch of unbelievers. Rot in hell and take your stupid sign with you. May Satan, maybe, Satan will help you light up your sorry butts. I guess a little Christian love spent our
A little
way.
Christian love, but you notice the contrast between the comments from the preacher or the comments from the previous lady who's studying to be a physical therapist,
Yeah.
and this type. And so what we find is the religious community seems to be split into these two groups, ones that pretty much follow the New Testament and ones which seem to need an object of hate in order to justify their religion. So, I don't know. Anyhow,
The next one.
here's another one here. Let me see if I can get enough breath to say this.
All right.
Just want you to know that just because you don't believe does not make God not so, no more than parking in a garage makes me a car. I will pray for you. One day you will see him face to face and you will believe. God bless.
All right. I must admit, I can't quite follow that reasoning. So let's see. Just because you don't believe doesn't make it so. Well, yeah, we often say just because you believe doesn't make it so. So
Yeah.
we're actually kind of in agreement on that. Belief doesn't make it true or false.
Well,
It has
yeah,
an independent truth value.
I can go with that, but I'm a little, puzzled by no more than parking in a garage makes me a car.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so-
That almost sounds like a linguistic mistake to say, well, I parked in the garages, but
Ah,
yeah. But at least the writer was thinking of us and said that they would pray for us. That's a little bit better than the previous writer who wanted Satan to help light us up.
yeah, right.
All right, well, here's kind of a long one. Please describe what was in existence 1 epsilon of time prior to the Big Bang. Regards. P.S. Please don't blow this off by saying time as we know it did not exist prior to the Big Bang. That's simply hiding behind semantics. P.P.S. Please don't cite Fred Hoyle's theory of the ever-expanding, contracting universe. Even Stephen Hawking gave up on that old theory.
No, Stephen Hawkins is what he wrote.
Okay, what did I say?
Hawkins, but anyhow, Hawkins.
Steve Hawkins. Yeah, all right, yeah.
Stephen Hawking, obviously.
P.P.P.S. Stating you don't know is acceptable, but then please change atheist to agnostic on your website. Thanks again, the undersigned. All right.
Well, it's a little harder. Guy starts off by wanting to know an answer to a physical question in some way or another, and then ends up by posing a more or less metaphysical answer
Yeah.
if we don't give the answer to the physical question.
Well,
So,
I when I read the first sentence, he wanted to know what was in existence 1 epsilon of time prior to the Big Bang. Well, that tells me he's had a calculus class, because epsilon is that traditional variable for a little bitty amount.
yeah, that's right.
So congratulations, writer, on having at least been in a calculus class. But I want to point out, telling you what may or may not have happened before a Big Bang is irrelevant to the question of the existence of Yahweh.
Exactly.
Because Yahweh makes specific claims that are far more immediate than the Big Bang. There's another way to examine this as well, and that is that about 100 years ago, maybe 110 years ago, we didn't know why the sun could shine with the energy that it does for the time it obviously has. That doesn't mean that you're free to then postulate that, oh, pixies do it, or Zeus is behind it, or that Yahweh character.
Yeah.
And further, if you do, then you have the great big embarrassment that when a decade or so passes and it's discovered why it's fusion of hydrogen into helium that releases energy, and there's fuel enough for it to last 10 billion years, it sure makes your assertion look kind of foolish.
Yeah. Okay, here's one. We had several like this that please keep me informed of your events. Thanks, from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
It made me wonder how they heard about us down in Chattanooga. I don't
Yeah.
know if they've had TV coverage down there or not. We'll
might
have to
have.
get back to them specifically with
Yeah,
that
one of the
question.
local TV stations may have shared their interviews with them. I don't know.
All right. Here we go. If you don't believe, then why do you care so much? It's fascinating how quickly atheists attack Christianity, but awkwardly silent when it comes to the world's fastest growing religion, Islam. Thank God we live in a country where you're free to express your beliefs, but why not spread around your hatred of religion? But who's that stupid, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know where this guy has been getting his information. Maybe he's watching Fox News too much. But we are non-discriminating in our unbeliefs.
That's right. We're polyatheists. We disbelieve in many gods.
Yeah, polyatheist is good.
In fact, I could say we need a word like toto-atheist. I disbelieve in all gods.
Yeah, well, whatever. But anyhow, if you've been watching any of the news or any of the blogs around recently, you'll see that people like Sam Harris and Dawkins and Bill Maher, they've been getting pounded because they've been really dumping on Islam much more than on Christianity recently.
And so then they're labeled as if they're sort of singling them out, perhaps for something like racial reasons. I'm trying to remember who coined the phrase. Science flies you to the moon, religion flies you into buildings.
Yeah.
That may be a Dawkinsism. I'm not certain.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. I think it is.
So I guess reader or viewer.
Just what you believe. Just wanted you to know. That's a very nice letter.
And we would say thank you for that.
Sure.
That's great. Well, is that all there is in the news?
No.
No? Imagine that.
We have a lot of contact with the outside world here today. There is more. The Attorney General says the Bible can't be the official Tennessee book. Now, why did he say that? It's because some freshman senator has proposed the Bible to be the
official
state book of Tennessee. Just like the mockingbird is the official state bird, the tulip tree is the official state tree, and now we're going to have an official state book. So
well, they think they're going to. They're going to. The bill has been moving through committee. It is passed out of committee, and I guess it will. If I understand the description of the legislative process correctly, it will be going to the General Assembly at some point soon for discussion.
I think it was supposed to be today.
I'll confess I was so caught up in billboard excitement that I've let this one come off my radar.
Yeah, well, I mean, after all, I can understand these Christians want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, They complain about having their rights being curtailed, but they don't seem to mind curtailing everybody else's rights on this.
It is kind of ironic that they, so to speak, want the support of the government. There's nothing like, how can you call it anything other than government support if you're trying to pass legislation in a government body declaring your holy book the state's book as well?
Yeah, well, that's why the Attorney General, I think maybe yesterday or just today, finally said that he thought it was violation of church-state separation to do it. And I know that Haiti Weinberg, who's head of the ACLU in Tennessee, has stated that they will probably file a lawsuit if this passes. Now, let's think a little bit about the Bible, what it has in it, okay?
I was going to say which Bible, but I'll let you go first.
Which Bible? That's a good question, all right? The Bible is really not a book. The Bible's a collection of books, right? And depending upon which collection, it can be a slightly different Bible, something of the sort. And in any case, let's just take the King James Version.
All righty.
That's a nice example. Well, let's put it this way. If you read that, you find out you don't really want to be on the opposite side of God's chosen people, because remember when they went into Canaan and he told them to rip up the pregnant ladies and bash the little kids' heads on the stones and take the young virgins for their own pleasure? I mean, is that really the kind of thing we want to endorse in Tennessee?
It does seem to be something like well, if taken at face value, it is a record of genocide.
Yes.
There's no nice way to say it.
The real genocide is that the God drawn everybody who was alive, right?
All right.
In the second chapter, or not second chapter, but, very early
Well,
in the book.
The deity committed mass genocide, and then he's been instructing his followers on Earth to try and live up to his standards, I guess.
Yeah, I think the late Henry Morris once estimated that there were about 7 billion people on Earth at the time the flood occurred. Don't ask me how he made up that number. But that's about the same number there are today. So, you get this guy pissed off, and he can do you a lot of damage.
Yep. There would be no greater mass murderer in history.
Yeah. But I have another suggestion for the state book, Tennessee. I mean, what's Tennessee really famous for?
When I was young, I heard of the Scopes trial.
The Scopes trial.
It made an echo of it made its way all the way up to Minnesota.
Yeah, and in fact, around the world. I mean, Tennessee was probably regarded as just another sort of backward Southern American state until the Scopes trial. And then it's known everywhere. And what occasioned the Scopes trial? Basically, Darwin's Origin of Species. Right?
It would be the legislatures trying to suppress Darwin's Origin of Species.
Yeah, but
it did put Tennessee on the map.
It put Tennessee on the map around the world. Exactly. And you could view the Scopes trial as a contest between two books, Origin of Species and the Bible. And at first it looked like the Bible might have run up because Scopes lost the case. He was fined $100, only $100. And
in 1925, that would have been a little bit more.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't all that. It still wasn't all that much. I mean, the theists were flabbergasted. They wanted to really stick it to him. So he was fined $100, but then when it came up on appeal, why, he won. The verdict was rendered null. And so in the end, the Origin of Species won out. Suggestion.
Well, maybe I'll tell this story. I drove through Dayton, Tennessee a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. I was going to visit a customer a little bit further to the west, and I decided I would take a detour through the city to make sure I saw the courthouse. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at my fuel gauge and decided I will get some gasoline. I stopped at a convenience store, bought some gasoline. And I went into the store. I must have purchased something inside. And when I walked out, a man stopped me and asked very politely, "Sir, do you know where anyone can get work around here?" Now, he didn't look like, the kind of guy who was like mowing lawns for a living or digging ditches.
Yeah.
I didn't have the presence of mind to ask him exactly what kind of work he was looking for. He looked like he might have the build of a guy who would do, residential construction or something like that. Uh-huh. And I explained that I was flabbergasted that he recognized me somehow as a business owner. It had me wondering how he picked that out. Mm-hmm. But I explained that, I'm not prepared to take on additional employees at this time, and wished him luck. And I thanked him for asking. And I got in my vehicle and I left. But I couldn't help but ponder it. I mean, I've never been approached by someone just asking for work like that. And it struck me as I was driving there through, eventually up onto the Sequatchie Valley and a rural area of Tennessee, the difficulty maybe of finding work in a rather rural area. But my mind went back to the Scopes trial, and I thought, what if the Tennessee Valley or the Sequatchie Valley had attracted the learned scientists such as what we call the Silicon Valley attracts now. There is no reason that California has all of that intellectual horsepower that Tennessee couldn't, in terms of, you don't have to live there to think that way and to make goods and products. And the fact that there is a difference in our country in material wealth and job opportunity is a reflection of the influence or relative influence of these two books. And it made the rest of my drive to visit my customer kind of sober, when I thought, this man who approached me asking about a job, his life choices have been diminished because of a book. So
Yeah, that could be a good one.
I'm all with you on that. The Origin of Species would be a good book. All right. Well, I guess what we're going to do is we're going to step back in time to a book written by Plato that was about a conversation that Socrates had, or is alleged to have had, must be something like 2,500 years ago.
Yeah.
So on this week's show, we will again examine the Euthyphro dilemma.
And this famous dilemma comes from a dialogue written by Plato. The Euthyphro dilemma is found in Plato's dialogue, Euthyphro, obviously, in which Socrates asks Euthyphro, a prophet or a bright young man, is the pious loved by the gods because it is pious, or is it pious because it is loved by the gods?
You started to mention who Euthyphro was, and I realized our notes don't address that. Maybe it's good to remark on that.
Okay.
The setup to this is Socrates is sitting before the courthouse. He has been charged with impiety himself for corrupting the youth of Athens and introducing strange gods. And so he's pondering this accusation against him when Euthyphro walks by. Euthyphro is a young man, spry in his step, and I believe they greet one another and politely inquire about one another's business. And Euthyphro says, "Why, I am going to the council to denounce my father for impiety." And Shakespeare, yeah. Socrates is, how should we say, flabbergasted by that because it's relevant to his issue. And he says, "Euthyphro, please tell me what piety is, for I am charged with impiety." And Euthyphro then makes this, and it turns into this kind of question then where, I guess that's over my head, is the pious loved by the gods because it is pious, or is it pious because it is loved by the gods?
Yeah,
did I get it right?
Yeah, or does God command what is good because God recognizes what is good, or is it good because commands it to be good? That's called divine command theory there. And also the interesting thing about this, the family was valued very much in Greek and especially in Roman history, and to have someone go to speak against his own father was virtually unheard of.
And in fact, what was the charge that Euthyphro was bringing against his father?
It was murder.
It was murder.
It was murder, because his father had a servant, and the servant had done something that was not right, and so the father, in order to take time to find out exactly what had happened, bound him up and threw him in the ditch, and there he died of exposure. And so
So Euthyphro then
Euthyphro.
was going to denounce his father as a murderer. And Socrates was, kind of shocked by this, because by their norms, family fidelity, ranked very high in the scale of things.
Exactly, and it was only people of the person who was harmed that were supposed to be able to bring charges. Not the son of the person who was accused. Okay. So it's time for us to go to a break here?
Well, we are, I guess, at the mid-program break, and then we can delve into the dilemma a little further.
Yeah.
All right, if we can find that break. All right, in case you're just tuning in, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions. Shows are live most Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Knoxville Community Access Television, Channel 12 or Channel 194, depending upon your local cable network. Tell your out-of-town friends they can see us streaming online at ctvknox.org.
Okay, this is a call-in show, and we're live today, and viewers can call in now to the number on the screen with a short comment or question. Call in now while we go to an informative break about our sponsors.
If you live in or around the Knoxville area and are questioning your religious beliefs or simply believe in one less God than everyone else, well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria for happy hour. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. On Fridays, we meet at Agave Azul or the Beard and Beer Market. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun. Do you find stories of talking snakes laughable? Do you prefer the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets weekly for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org.
All right, the Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets 2 times a week. We have evening meetings for fun, food, drink, and conversation. ASK's purpose is to supply a venue for community, camaraderie, and outreach to atheists, agnostic, freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in the East Tennessee area. Our Tuesday meeting is going on now at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in Knoxville.
And you're welcome to come down and have conversation, right?
We'll be there.
We'll be there. The Rationalists of East Tennessee has Sunday activities involving lively presentations and discussions on subjects topical and timeless. Once a month, we get together for a book club. The title of the May book is Lean In, Women, Work, and the Will to Lead by Sheryl Sandberg. Sunday, May 10th at 2 p.m. at Books A Million.
Yeah, I do that too. I'm so used to the old red location.
It's the little shopping center at the corner of Kingston Pike and Walker Springs Road. Sheryl Sandberg examines why women's progress in achieving leadership roles has stalled and explains the root causes and offers compelling common sense solutions that can empower women to achieve their full potential. The public is invited to participate. You need not have read the book to attend, but of course it helps. Visit rationalist.org to find the rest of the calendar of books and join us at this new location at Books A Million.
All righty. RET announces its annual public lecture. Humanist author Dave McGowan will present the RET annual public lecture Saturday, May 2nd at 1 p.m. in the Goins Auditorium of the Pellissippi State Technical Community College at the Hardin Valley campus. His talk is titled 20 Things I Learned About Atheism That Most Atheists Don't Even Know. This will be an entertaining talk based on his book, Atheism for Dummies. I've noticed there's copies of it circulating around down at at Barley's. Someone's brought it recently.
Oh, okay.
He notes, if the sentence, atheists don't believe in God, captures everything there is to know about the subject, then the Grand Canyon is just a big hole in Arizona. Join us as he reveals 20 surprising things he learned about atheism while researching his book.
Yeah, I will certainly be interested in knowing this. I have a very simplistic view of atheism.
Mine is pretty much, I've never believed in any of those deity things.
Yeah. So Dale's the author and editor of several books, including Parenting Beyond Belief, Raising Freethinkers, and Atheism for Dummies. His most recent title, In Faith and in Doubt, is on first marriages between religious believers and non-believers. Dale is also the founding executive director of the Foundation Beyond Belief, a humanist charitable organization, and content development manager for Patheos, the world's largest website exploring questions from religious and non-religious perspectives. He was named Harvard Humanist of the Year in 2008. Dale lives with his family near Atlanta. For further information, you can visit his website, dalemcgowan.com.
Both the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee help provide a social outlet where you'll find that if you don't believe in Zeus or follow Zoroaster or say yuck to Yahweh,
you're not alone. Okay, so let's go back to the program.
We were just getting into Euthyphro's dilemma.
Right.
I guess we've done the setup. The question is, what is piety or piousness? Pious, I think, also that's a word that we use that in English, but it's not in everyday usage. We would also simply say that which is good, would we not?
Yes, I think that's what the meaning is. And so again,
so how did Euthyphro try to answer these questions?
Well, he started by answering that. I think, first of all, that what he said was good.
Doing what I'm doing is good, which was ratting on his father, I guess?
Yes, because he knew what was moral.
He knew what was moral, so do what I'm doing. Now, Socrates hadn't been accused of murdering his father, so Socrates rightly pointed out that, well, that's merely an example, and it doesn't help me. Please give me the general explanation. So, how might Euthyphro have then tried to tackle that general explanation?
I think his first answer was that piety is what the gods believe to be pious. And of course, gods,
yes,
not God.
And Socrates then said, well, but wait a minute, the gods disagree on things. You know, in the Trojan War, you had Zeus on the side of the Menelaus and Agamemnon, but Hera was siding with the Trojans, and so no, it was not Hera. It was Aphrodite who was siding with the Trojans.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So right there you had the gods conflicting. So Socrates would say, but wait, the gods can't agree amongst themselves.
Yes, and we find that today, right? I mean,
apparently so.
Apparently so. That Jehovah or Yahweh and Allah seem to have disagreements on many subjects.
Well, their followers well, heck, even the followers, any one of them can't agree on everything.
Well, I know. That's why we have how many religious Christian cults are there? I mean,
I've heard Larry express a number, but I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
It's in the order of hundreds, if not thousands.
Yes, and each one of them describes God somewhat differently, right?
In Islam, there are, I think, two major divisions, and that's Shia and Sunni.
Yeah.
And that stems from a disagreement after the death of Muhammad as to who should be the successor.
Yes.
Apparently, even though Muhammad was given had the ear of the deity didn't bother to tell him that, by the way, when you die, this is how that needs to be dealt with, and head off that problem.
Yeah. Apparently there are other little sects too, like Sufis, who are a little more ethereal in their beliefs, etc. But the Shiites and the Sunnis are big ones, just as say, Protestants and Catholics.
They're big enough that when they fight, it embroils the whole area.
Yeah. Right.
The other groups are small enough that they have not presented within my lifetime that I know of a serious, let's say, military challenge to where they then make the news.
No. Maybe this rogue group ISIS would come in that category. I don't know.
I think they're prominently Sunni, though.
Yeah, but they kind of seem to hate everybody. I don't know.
Yeah. So then Euthyphro modifies his claim, though. I think what he says is, well, the pious is that which is loved by all the gods.
By all the gods.
All right. And then I think this prompts Plato to then finally ask the question that digs into the heart of it. So, is it pious because it is loved by the gods? Is it loved by the gods because it is pious? Or is it pious because it is loved by the gods?
Right. And that takes us...
So if we take the first part of it to say that...
This forms the two horns of the dilemma.
All right.
Right. And I should say that even though this was posed, as we say, 2,300, 2,400 years ago, people still argue about it.
It was remarkable when I was researching the Wikipedia page how recent some of the arguments were.
Okay, I think we have a caller here. So, caller, you're on the air. Could you give us a name or a nickname?
Caller is just pretty good. I mean, I am calling, so that'll work.
Okay.
All right, caller, great. Do you have a comment or question for us?
Regarding your billboard there, I went to WATE's website, their Facebook, and was looking at the comments, and I believe that probably some of the other people were struck by the ferocity of some of the comments over such an innocuous billboard. I mean, after all,
Yeah.
it was just saying, hey, you want to join our organization, we're like you, and so forth and so on. And it started bothering me. I mean, why would there be so much animosity toward this sort of thing? Just because it says Rationalists up there, when there's other billboards that are positively offensive. There's one on Chapman Highway that says Jesus is real and the rest of your gods are not. There is also the sex billboards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The come over to our sex supply place and buy our anatomically correct.
You've been sufficiently oblique, caller.
Say again?
You have been sufficiently oblique, caller.
We understand your point.
So, caller, I assume, I was struck by some of that as well, that people would say, well, they can't, claim or prove there's no God. And in fact, the nature of the billboard is not a question about proof of existence or non-existence. It's really that if you've come to this conclusion, you're not alone.
Well, it seems to me like just what Larry said. It was just a, what do you call it when you try to a membership drive?
Sure.
Type thing. But it really, really struck me. Why would this bring about such a bad reaction? And there's especially when there's other things, the sex billboards. The Baptists are totally ape, but when it comes to sex, so
Yeah.
They don't really care about that. So, and the only thing I could come up with is if you see a billboard that says "Don't believe in God?" ? And you don't believe in God, but maybe you're a churchgoer, maybe this is what chord you're striking. In other words, you've heard it said that homophobes are actually hate homosexuals because they feel the feminine side of their own, and they're actually hating themselves. So I wonder if what you're doing is you're striking a chord in some believers who say, yeah, I really don't believe in any of that stuff, and I really don't like to be reminded of it by a billboard.
Yeah, I thought of this too, and I think it's people who feel that their religion is tenuous, that it not only cannot stand up to a real direct attack, it can't even stand up to the hint that, you know, there might be another way of thinking. And so I think maybe these are a lot of people who write the really nasty comments.
Well, caller, the name of our show is Freethought Forum, and that's chosen as, so to speak, a contrast to or a challenge against the idea that there are certain things that are dogma, that cannot be talked about, or that it is blasphemous to express doubt. It's a phrase that it was, I think, common and strongly used in the late 19th century, where people would talk about free thought, and what they were specifically demanding was the right to say out loud their honest opinion on the existence of a deity. And that's kind of what our sign is. And yet here, 100 years later, there are people who are quite agitated by the mere question, don't believe in God?
Yes, but the observation was, why are they agitated? And what I'm proposing is that these people are insecure.
Yes.
They're so tenuous in their beliefs that this sort of thing cannot be tolerated. But at the same time, they have no problems with competing religions, with religions that say your God is definitely wrong. Our God is correct. So whenever I see somebody with that kind of attitude, I must ask myself, what is it about yourself that brings out this reaction? In other words, the reaction is not because of the billboard. The reaction is actually because of what is inside themselves.
Right. I think if you notice the Reverend Bibb's response, he came across, as defending free speech. He doesn't necessarily agree with what we say, but he comes across as being someone who's very secure in his religion. And he's
right. A secure Christian would say, we live in a society where people are allowed to talk. An insecure Christian would say, well, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
Well, caller, I would bet there's actually probably two categories out there. Perhaps the one you've identified as insecure, and they don't want it talked about. But I suspect there's also a category that has been trained to express hatred towards that kind of idea, trained to express hatred to ideas that are outside what they've been told are the true beliefs that their church has given them, and that they are in a sense privileged or even commanded to be hateful like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you come down to the idea, I think Ralph touched on it earlier, is the difference between God and Satan. They're pretty much the same thing. So, maybe these people are lay awake at night and they go, maybe I am worshiping the devil.
Well, I think there's nothing more devastating to a person than to suddenly arrive at a point where a cherished belief he has held throughout his life is being questioned, and that he may start to question himself. This can be quite devastating. The Freedom from Religion Foundation runs this clergy project, and they have these clergymen come in and join up who have, been trained and are running churches, and they get to a point where they just don't believe anymore, and it's kind of devastating for them. And so they want people to give them some outside help, some outside support in a lot of cases. And
I think that they literally have no one to talk to about their doubt. They can't even talk with spouses.
Yeah.
In many instances, they can't talk with spouses.
Right. Right. Not only repressed, but suppressed, and it's building up. And it has to come out with letters to the editor and such as that.
Yeah, so I would encourage you to write a letter to the editor on our behalf.
All righty.
No, they don't want me doing that anymore. not since the incident.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
I'll let off and let somebody else call.
thank you for visiting with us, caller.
okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, we've got about 8 minutes left in the show. We could take another call or two if you're out there.
Sure.
And if you're wanting to call about our sign or the Bible being the state book or Euthyphro's dilemma, and if you can't stand to hear about Euthyphro's dilemma, then please call in.
Well, certainly the one part of the dilemma, if God determines what is good, that he commands what he says is good to be believed by you.
All right, so
Then-
that's horn number 2.
Then if that's what you think is the good, then you are no more than a slave. That
Yes.
is,
Yeah,
you do not have
only do what you're told.
You do not have a standard or a basis for morality. You only have a standard for obedience and slavery.
And in fact, there's an argument made by the philosophers that there is since there is no moral standard other than God's will, that all actions then could be arbitrary. God could
Yes.
change his mind and make that which was good yesterday evil today, and vice versa.
Yes.
Whoa, we've got another call again.
Another caller. Go ahead.
Hello, caller. This is Freethought Forum TV. Can you give us a name or a nickname and speak up, please?
Jeremy.
Hello, Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi.
Great. Give us a comment or a question, please.
Well, my whole thing is the State Book of Tennessee. Since I've lived here all my life, my suggestion, based on the politics of Tennessee, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand will make a good state book for Tennessee.
Okay. I've never read it, but I briefly you briefly outline it for viewers, and then explain why you think that would be a good book.
Well, it's a novel, and it has an idea of limited government and the government having too much power, and this has been, there's a lot of small government concerns. I think that Tennessee's probably the reddest of the red states. I think that'd be a good book for
Well,
Could you outline the book's storyline, though? Why would I want to read it? I've heard the outline, but if I didn't, why would I want to read it?
That's a good question. Let's see.
Okay, I'll help you to the extent that I can. In this dystopian future of a big government, the few bright, hardworking people are being mooched on more and more by people who are just wanting to do the minimal to get along, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the Atlas Shrugged part about it all? Someone advocates that maybe the real producers do what?
Stop producing. Yeah.
Stop producing. So that's
Yeah.
Atlas shrugging, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how does it play out?
Well, what I'm saying is that seems to fit Tennessee. We have a very conservative way of viewing things, and we have a much smaller. We don't have a state income tax. We don't have a lot of things with the government telling us what to do.
yeah, so you think that the philosophy expressed in that book is a philosophy that would be embraced by most Tennesseans?
At least, yeah, I think it.
I don't know. You might be right. I'm not sure.
And I myself am a Christian. And I think it is a fitting book for Tennessee more than the Bible is, because of what I've seen of Tennessee. But,
Well, okay. You ought to send that suggestion in to your state representative.
Do you know how to find your state representative? Do you know your state representative? Mine is Bob Ramsey. I'm down in Maryville.
I'm not sure about that. I know my senator and congressman. I can call Duncan's office. I know that number.
Yeah, but they're not legislating at the state government level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They would know, though, from there, if I called them, they'd know where to.
that's true, but you can go to tn.gov, that is
Yeah.
the state website, and from there you should be able to find your legislatures. I'm sure they've got a web page where you can put in a zip code, and it ought to get, well, you might need a street address as well, because those boundaries cross zip code areas.
Yeah,
But
well-
that's how you could do it.
I think, this is an actionable item for all the citizens of Tennessee, and I think they should give their input to their representatives.
And
Yeah, you're not against having a state book. You're just against it being the Bible, basically.
Well, it seems kind of strange to have a state book, but I guess I can't be against it particularly.
we have state fossils, we
Yeah,
have state birds.
I think somebody was recommending a state bacterium a couple weeks ago. But anyhow, I guess I can't say that I'm against it.
Jeremy, we're getting low on time. Do you watch us often? Is this the first time?
This is not the first time, but it's not a regular thing. I just got bored.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Well, thanks
we
for-
hope we relieved some of your boredom.
Thanks for calling in. I think our viewers might take your recommendation to mind.
Yeah, and you're invited to come meet us at Barley's and discuss things further.
Okay.
Thank you much.
Listen,
All right. Well, we're not going to get very far on this dilemma things here.
well, no,
So-
but we've had an interesting show in any case, I think, and
So the argument against the horn number 2, which is command theory,
Yeah.
would be that then God could change his mind and morals could become topsy-turvy. There is no absolute standard for morals that you could write down and would be unchanging.
yeah, but it's not just that. It's just that whatever this God would decide would have to be considered moral. In other words, beheading people who don't agree with you would have to be a moral act, and it is among ISIS apparently.
Yes.
Right. I think most Christians would not agree that is a moral act. Okay.
So let's jump back to Horn 1 while we've got a minute or so
Okay.
left. So the problem with Horn 1 that is proposed is that if God only commands that which is right, it means that God has to recognize a moral standard independent of himself.
Independent of himself.
And
so
that-
he is not the creator of morals.
He's not the creator of morals. And in a sense, if God has to always act morally, that means God can't have free will.
That's true.
And that was an amazing, how should we say, argument put forward in the list of things, that if morals come before God's, and if God is moral, God cannot have free will.
Well, maybe
It makes God the same prisoner that we would be under this command theory, I guess.
It goes back a little to Einstein's comment, did God have any choice in how he created the universe?
Now, I think that had more to do with
I know-
how do the rules go
I know what
together.
it is, but anyhow, it's time for us to close.
All right, if you get on the closing section, you start,
Okay.
I'll catch up.
It's time to start wrapping things up here. Get out your pen and paper. This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Ralph Eisler.
Please send us feedback or leave voicemail at 865-272-9060 or freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. You can see this show Tuesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on Knoxville stations or ctvknox.org.
And we would like to thank our viewers and send thanks to Sam and Jonas for technical support, to the staff at CTV Knox, and to all our callers.
Nuns, those who identify with no religion,